Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Hey, this is going to be a re-release of a video I made in 2013, about 4 years ago, October. And the first part of this video will be in addition to an older video, so you will see me speaking in October 2017, today, the 19th, Thursday, in 2013, October. So I'll look a little different. And on my 2013 video, I made some notes on the video. So it's interesting that when I began making videos after reading books and researching for almost 10 years, to see where I was then and where I am now after producing about 500 hours of videos on YouTube, seeing what's been happening in the world since 2013, since 2005 when I started my research, since 2001 after 9/11, what the heck is going on? What have I learned? Why are they saying there's a great awakening happening across the planet? A concern to me is when you talk about a great awakening, and you can awaken to the left or the right. In other words, you can be positive or negative, Republican, Democrat, Christian, anti-Christian. There's just two sides. And somebody's playing the two sides. Somebody's playing with our minds, so I believe. Divide and conquer. The Hegelian dialectic, where they create a 9/11 event or Pearl Harbor, or false flag shootings, Las Vegas, Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, to take some actions. And I talk about they, the people who control our world, the secret powers that control the public faces, the elected officials, who are told what to do. During elections, of course, they take polls and they find out what you want, whether you are to the right or to the left or conservative or liberal. All these words they make up. New age, new world order, to divide people. So the Great Awakening can go one or two ways. You can wake up to what is the truth, most people, many people perceive as the truth, and something else, maybe a deception, which a lot of people are thinking is the truth. What is the truth? Is there a God, or is there not a God? Should we have globalism? Should we not have globalism? Two choices from the center. I'm going to look at this book again. Remember, the second part of this video was made 4 years ago, and I made some comments on the things I said, and it seems fairly consistent. My research continues to build in my knowledge base and my perception of what's going on. I remember way back, many years ago, 20 years ago, I was raising two boys, my sister's two boys. I had to take care of them for a couple years. And they came home from school one day with Pokemon chips. And I thought to myself, one day, those kids are going to look like Pokemon characters. I'd taken a couple courses in psychology in the local community college. Not that I was a genius or anything, but most of us are intuitive. We can think about things and be concerned about things and be aware of things, or intuitive ability. If you see a house on fire, you call the fire department. Then you run over there, and hopefully, if there's anybody that needs saving or assistance, you do it. Your intuition tells you that. What's the right thing to do? You don't just close your blinds and say, I'm not going to call the fire department. I'm not going to go care about people. Although there are people that do that, believe it or not. The hidden dangers of the rainbow. I guess it was when I made the first video by that title. It was Series 18. And then when I reorganized my videos, it became Series 40, Part 3. And I had my videos up for over 4 years. But a year ago, I had a couple concerning issues, some threats even, and I had to take all my videos down and restructure, organize them. So when you go to my YouTube channel, Rick Miracle, and you look at the About Me, you'll see that the channel was created further back. And if you click the videos, newest first or oldest first, you'll see that I started reposting everything a little over a year ago. And I also mentioned this because when you look at other people's videos, click the title of the channel, whether it's Nibiru X or Dane Wigington, whoever it says the name of the channel or the person is, and that takes you to their YouTube home site, YouTube home base, and you can click their videos and see newest first, oldest first. You can click About Me and see what other websites they might have, Facebook or other websites, because I think it's important to see who, what, and why, and how people are publishing videos with the plethora of videos on Nibiru Planet X websites from YouTube and other websites on the internet and other books and all that popping up in 2012 and 2013. Remember 2012 with the Mayan calendar, a lot of people were predicting the end of the world, the gloom and doom. Around the year of 2000, the millennium, people were predicting the end of the world, gloom and doom. Throughout history, they predicted the end of the world, gloom and doom. And even now, 2017, 2016, 2015, Jade Helm 15, troops being dispersed all across the country, running military exercises like they're going to have martial law in the United States. And apparently there's accusations of weather control, HARP microwave transmitter warfare systems, biological weapons. So the gloom and doom is even reaching an all-time high in 2017. What's 2018 going to bring? And these pieces of information, this propaganda, all these videos, all these books, all these newspaper bizarre stories are affecting we the people. Yes? No? So I'm going to read a little bit from this book for this re-release of 40 Part 3, 40 in my series Freemasonry and Satanism, and add a first hour to that video, created, of course, in 2017, me speaking now. And it's just interesting to note that the stuff I started talking about, making videos about, and the stuff I started reading about 13 years ago in 2005 and 2001 911 and other tidbits of knowledge I might have had because I am an observant person, and I did work at a major aerospace company from 1979 to 1989, 1990. Then I got laid off and I wound up in business for myself, business consulting. So it's been an interesting, wild ride, my personal life. When I was 17, I joined the Army. I was out with by the time I was 20, qualified to get the GI Bill and have some of my college paid for. And I wasn't even 21. And so I started at the aerospace company in my early 20s, worked there 10 years, and now I've been working for myself about 20-something years. So it's been an interesting life. I remember being able to pull my car over in Maine and take my rifle out and go into the woods hunting for turkeys, pheasant, deer, etc., or just go hiking in the woods with my dog. Coming to Florida after leaving Maine, taking the boat out almost anywhere in the waterways all over Florida, the inlets to the ocean, out in the ocean, jumping overboard, snorkeling around, seeing all the fish. I had a fun life. And then I noticed all these changes. I noticed the fish were disappearing. The shrimp in Florida. I used to go shrimping, catch shrimp this big. Crabs. Everything disappeared. So finally, at some point where I noticed all this craziness going on in the world, the hidden dangers of the rainbow, all this new age propaganda, and even I was involved with the mind control, being an ex sort of hippie back in the times when I grew up. You know, we had our own thinking processes. We were rebelling. So it affected me. It affects everybody. So what is the truth? I've been making these videos so that maybe we could have a conversation. And I decided my source of material would be books published by well-known people, bestseller books, because after these books wind up on the bestseller list, maybe in 1980, 1962, 1888, whatever, they wind up in obscurity. They disappear. So I thought this brilliant idea, so I thought that I would try to get these books out into the public. People could know they exist and go see that some people lived and died, sometimes horrific deaths, bringing us this material. And again, if we have a conversation, we can all maybe rationalize and use our reason, common sense, and we can come up with conclusions and understand what's going on in our world, why we have all that bizarre news and incidences all over the world, monuments and symbols and rituals. You don't know what to believe. And I don't blame people for that. Alright, so this is kind of a convoluted video when you watch it. And the storyline may change a couple times, but when you're listening to my sentences, just pay attention to that sentence and what I'm talking about, and then maybe we'll be talking about something else. Because again, part of this video was made in 2013, and this part is 2017, and I'm going to read a small bit from this book, and then look at numerous books that I'll be making future videos on, connecting the dots. I'm convinced everything is connected. And like I said, some people are being led in this direction and maybe actually waking up and see the deception, the propaganda. And some people are being led in this direction and are buying the lies and the deception and propaganda. And I believe the evil forces are controlling information on this side and this side, and they do use some truths to then start shoveling the deception and the lies. And over here they want to cater to the conservatives, the Christians, whatever, these people, some books and material, and then slip in some lies and try to take you off the truth path. So there's the trick. That's why we have to have conversations. But you can't get people to talk about these things. Try talking about it to your spouse, your companion, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, your friends. A lot of people don't want to think. Apparently it hurts their brain to think. So with that said, let me read a little bit from this book. And again, I'm not trying to do audiobooks. If you find this information interesting in any of my videos, you can go on used book sites or the internet and new book stores, and a lot of these books you can find. And please don't believe what I say. Go do your homework, take some notes like I do, and look up this stuff. And I think once you start looking up some stuff, you're going to be amazed at what you find and realize that you have been deceived in many misconceptions about reality. We have a physical reality. We all know that. I'm sitting here in this chair. The books and pictures on the wall are there. These are pictures I take here of the sun with filters on my camera. The black spot you see here is the bright light you see in the sky, the sun. But with filters on your camera, you'll notice behind that bright light in the sky, the sun that you think you see, is a big orb, almost like looking at a flashlight, and the bright light hitting the wall. So if you're in a dark room and you turn on your flashlight, if you turn it around and look at it, you're going to see this amber color. But you see the beam here on your wall, your whole room is going to light up. So, and then there's these little black dots you can see. And are these camera effects? See the orb here? These are clouds. Pictures behind me. So what is the truth about our world? Some people talk about the flat earth. Some people talk about the hollow earth. Some people talk about the orb that we're spinning over 1,000 miles an hour, hurtling through space. And I did the math. I used to work in electronic engineering, so I can do a little math. And I calculated the distance from Earth to the sun. And I used the formula to calculate the diameter. You can look it up on the computer. And I plugged in the numbers. And to my astonishment, the Earth is traveling around 66,600 miles an hour. 666, the mark of the beast. I said around there, depending on how you do the math, you'll get 66.7 or 666.9. So it rounds out to about 666. So 66,600 miles an hour, we're speeding around the sun. If you take the diameter and divide it by 365 days, which is kind of amazing. Just think of that. It's like the bullet going around the sun. And the sun is not sitting still. It's zooming around the galaxy at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. It's almost like a bullet carrying a bunch of speeding bullets. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's amazing the sun and the earth and all that doesn't run into all kinds of debris in the galaxy. So it does boggle the mind, and it makes a person think that the probability that we're zooming this ball of water around the sun at 66,000 plus miles an hour, and at the same time we're rotating over 1,000 miles an hour, and at the same time the sun is speeding around the center of the galaxy at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour, and it doesn't just hurtle in a straight line, the sun carrying the planets. It goes like a little roller coaster, crossing the elliptic plane, sometimes reaching a peak point, the northern side of the galaxy. You've seen what the Milky Way galaxy looks like. Then it goes through the center where you can see all the lights like the Milky Way galaxy you see in the sky. So it crosses the elliptic plane, and then it goes to a southerly portion. That is our sun carrying the planets and moons and everything. And it reaches a southerly point, a south pole maybe, and then it turns around and reaches the elliptic plane again. So here's the sun carrying the planets, cruising along, reaching a northerly point, going through the elliptic plane right through the center like the equator on Earth, and reaching a southerly point like the South Pole, the magnetic South Pole, ecliptic plane, North Pole, ecliptic plane, South Pole, So over and over and over in the course of millions of years, and apparently those cycles, a complete cycle might be something like 26,000 years. Divide that by 12, gives you the astrological signs: Aquarius, Scorpio, Pisces, the beginning of the age when Jesus was born, and Aquarius, the beginning of this new age we're entering. So apparently these points on the chart, crossing the elliptic plane, going to a high point, crossing the elliptic plane, going to a low point, and crossing the elliptic plane, you can count them: elliptic plane 1, southerly 2, crossing it again 3, northerly point 4, and back to 5. So you have these different effects that could happen. So if you take those 4 halves, there's 2 halves, 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top, where it reaches the high point, reaches the center, reaches the low point, reaches the other. You take those 4 quarters, those would be 3 each of the astrological signs. And apparently the beginning of these ages has effects on the reality and the things that happen on planet Earth. Astrology, mixing with astronomy. So I've been reading about a lot of things since 2005 when I started my research, after going down to Costa Rica on a big 0 birthday of mine, change of life you might say, and a bunch of people sitting at the tiki bar told me things about what's going on in the world and how they felt sorry for we Americans. And I was perplexed, confused, maybe even a little bit insulted. We're pretty smart people here in the United States of America. But Europeans, as we all know, even Africans and Middle Easterns, and the Orient, China, Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, Korea, Mongolia, Russia, Europe, England, Norway, Scotland, the whole world, Australia, New Zealand. You know, these countries were going on with a lot of history way before the United States was discovered by Columbus, America. And of course, there were ancient peoples already here, and there apparently is some ancient historical monuments all over the Americas, providing us with the evidence that there were great civilizations, or a great civilization, one or more, before the Great Flood that wiped out a lot of the people all over the planet thousands of years ago. So it just makes for an interesting story that the people in Europe and the Orient and other parts of the world would say that we Americans are naive and we're being deceived and we don't know what's going on. So I began my investigation after I looked into a few things they said. And guess what? They were right. And I've been sharing my information after I was reading books and studying, looking at internet sites and paying attention to press releases, the bought and paid for controlled politicians and newspapers and news channels and even the TV programming they're using to mess with our minds. So after I was researching for about 10 years, which I told myself I would do before I would write a book or two, and I jumped right into making videos. So that's been 4 years ago. So the total of 13 plus years I've been doing this. And I'm about to embark on 2018, my 14th year. So I'm kind of doing a review of what I have done and putting my thoughts together out of all the material that I have researched, all the books I have collected. You can see just a sampling of books behind me, and some of the artifacts I've collected in my travels behind me. Things like Hopi Reservation I went to. I got the doll and the Mayan face over here. And cool little fish I bought in Cozumel made out of seashells. Really cool. Over here in Nicaragua, they have these funny little ceramic things. This looks like a pelican. Well, turn it around. It looks like a different bird. And turn it upside down. It looks like a rhinoceros. Excuse me. Gotta get my rhinoceros right here. Here we go. So no matter how you turn it, you see different kinds of animals. Funny things that people have all over the world. Then I got Mayan calendars, and I have all these books on numerous subjects. 200 books on that bookcase of the books I've read and made videos on. Another gigantic bookcase over here with all of the conspiracy theory authors and the materials. Another bookcase here all about the Zionism, Jewish history, Atlantis. Over here is all my, this whole bookcase here. 3 shelves down. Over 100 and something books on UFOs and aliens. Behind me, 2 long bookcases full of books on all my psychic research and all that stuff. Metaphysics, and over there I have all my dowsing books and more psychic material. So I've got about 1,000 books in this room. And if I am going to continue reading them and pondering what they're saying and sharing the information, I could be at this for quite a few years. But concerningly enough, I don't think we have quite a few years. Things are moving along at a very quick pace, and all kinds of fear propaganda and actions going on in the world, even with President Donald Trump and the leader of Israel saying things, and Russia and China and North Korea, things going on in the United States, the Las Vegas shooting, with seemingly a lot of confusing pieces of information out there, threats of Planet X, Nibiru, electromagnetic and biological weapon systems being deployed everywhere, legislation being passed, people disappearing. Apparently we're having weather control situations, hurricanes striking strategically in Texas and Florida. The Western California area is burning. It's in flames. They're freezing in Colorado and flooding in other places. And this is going on all over the world. There are satellite systems and websites you can look at. And I'll be sharing those things in the future. As you know, if you've been watching my videos, I talk about lots of things. Because, as I've been saying all along, I think everything is connected. It's a huge plan promoting the new age and a new world order, globalism, and they're actually convincing a lot of people that these are going to be good things. But if you've been watching my videos or picking up any kind of books or doing any kind of research or watching the demonic symbolism rituals, football halftime shows, I mean, they actually even have the horns and the devils and the chair, I mean, the symbols. If you just start researching it a little bit, just look up satanic symbols, Illuminati symbols, just watch a couple videos and then start paying attention to the world around you, you will see I am right. They wanted to put that archway, like a door archway of Baal, B-A-A-L, in New York City and London, and later on through UNESCO I found out they were putting 1,000 of these archways all over the world. And then they have all these pyramidal buildings and structures that are quite interesting all over the world. I made a video on Text Mars' book, Mysterious Monuments by Text Mars. I'm looking at my bookcase. Series number 25. You can go watch the video. So I've got over 400 videos on YouTube talking about 200 books and other documents on a variety of subjects, from psychic communication, channeling, prophets, the Uranta book, Pole Shift, Helena Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine. I'm just looking at my bookcase reading randomly. Henry Ford, The International Jew, The World's Foremost Problem. Albert Pike, the leader of the Freemasons in the 1800s, Morals and Dogma, the Bible for the Freemasons, even declaring that Lucifer is their deity. Edgar Cayce, Books on the Occult, Masonry, Major Trends in Jewish Mysticism, Series 120. Channeling again, Jane Roberts channeling Seth. Lee Carroll channeling Cryon, The Raw Material, Messages of Deception, Occult Theology, Circles of Intrigue by Tex Mars, and I've been doing the Jim Mars book reviews since he passed away a couple weeks ago, Series 144. I've acquired some more of his books, and we'll make more videos about his material. David Icke, William Cooper, David Morehouse, Psychic Warrior, Fritz Springmeier, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, talking about the Protocols of Zion, Dungeon, Fire, and Sword by John Robinson, Underground Tunnels and Bases, so many more. Communion by Whitley Strieber, books on astrology, World War I, World War II, revolutionary activities, involvement of the Jewish people who were dispersed all over the world, Judaism, Zionism, Communism, Freemasonry, Rosicrucian, and all kinds of occult societies, Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta. Oh my, the Vatican, the Black Pope. I'm trying to leave no rock unturned. So with all that said, let me read a little bit from this book. And again, I'm just trying to introduce these books and have a conversation with people and take notes. Because if I'm right, those who are not awake, they're in trouble. We're all in trouble. But I think being awake might protect you a little bit. Because we are dealing with a physical reality, interacting with a non-physical reality, whether you want to call them spirits or interdimensional beings, demons, ghosts, watchers, archons, reptilians, Anunnaki, gray aliens. I could go on for a while. All right, page 68. The danger to Jews, Christians, and even Orthodox Muslims from this New Age movement should not be underestimated. Constance Cumbey, she was an attorney turned researcher, so she was an educated woman. And I've got many supporting books, which we'll take a quick peek at before I end this video. Books I'm going to make future videos on. So should not be underestimated. Jews, Christians, and Orthodox Muslims. And I'm going to include Buddhism, Hinduism, and any other religion. Because a lot of people belong to one religion or another. And they may not be that serious about it. They may not be that much of a knowledgeable investigator about it. They just may have grown up as somebody that was Buddhist or Islamic or Christian or whatever. But there are some people who are using those religions to deceive the rest of us. And I think it is something from the spiritual realm that's documented in most religion and historic ancient monuments all over the world. All right, so the New Age movement, none of us should underestimate it. This book is called The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow. The rainbow is a symbol for the New Age movement, and it's a symbol for the sexual revolution, saying anything goes. And if we know about Sodom and Gomorrah and God's punishment to humanity for people who have gone overboard in evil, that's why they had the Great Flood, according to religious documents. And this is from ancient tribes all over the world, by the way, this reported worldwide flood. And a lot of people are now attributing it to some mysterious Planet X. some sun called the Destroyer. Wormwood, mentioned in the Bible. With aliens on a planet in Hebrew called the Anunnaki. Apparently some kind of reptilian aliens. And apparently the story goes that they're trying to convince everybody all over the world is that these aliens use their DNA and ancient beings on Earth, Neanderthal man, etc., to create the humans that we are today. And some of these hybrid reptilian beings, bloodlines, still exist, and they have existed all along behind the scenes, and have been the kings and queens and elites all over the planet, causing all kinds of destruction and theft all over the world. What is the truth? That's why I make these book reviews, so maybe with a little bit of thinking, we can maybe together figure out what is the truth. Because it can be quite confusing. Look what I just said in 35 minutes. Non-stop. The movement is working quickly and efficiently to execute its scheme to take control of the world. Sounds like a sci-fi movie or a Superman movie with the evil entities trying to take over the world. For Maitreya, and not so subtly, calling it the plan. You can look up something called the plan, New World Order. If the plan proceeds on schedule, they may well be in the driver's seat by June 21st, 1983. And I am aware after World War II, 1947, Israel was created in 1948, and it had taken them 2 world wars to get in that position. They tried it in World War I, which is why we had World War I and World War II, financed by the Illuminati, and at the head of the Illuminati family was the Rothschilds and others, and they were clearly Zionist and part of some biblical prophecy, and apparently they're into a demonic reptilian religion. There is a common denominator, and I've been discovering it. We've all known it, but we really didn't know enough to really understand it or confirm our own beliefs. It's one of those things that's so crazy, you just want to be in deniability. You know, say, no way, man. But apparently, after all this research I've done, yes way. If the plan succeeds on schedule, they may well be in the driver's seat by 1983, the date of their planned World Congress to be held in Toronto or Ontario, Canada. So they were having world congresses. We know the Zionist people were doing that for the last couple hundred years. So things were moving along, and I think this was why they did the 9/11 event and many others. There was so much archaeological secrets buried underground all over the world, particularly in the Middle East, where the pyramids and the Sphinx are, and many other ancient religious locations. And they have satellites in space, and they can x-ray the ground, just like you might go to the doctors for an x-ray to see a broken bone. So they had to take out all these governments to have access to all these monuments, even in museums. During the invasion of Iraq, there's documented evidence, press releases, stories, essays, books, that the militaries of NATO in the world who were invading the Middle East after 9/11, led by the State of Israel, the Zionists, the Illuminati types, were after artifacts in the museums in Iraq, etc. And in the news, since I've been paying attention, there are discoveries, archaeological discoveries, announcing certain things being found and using that evidence to support some kind of theory about the ancient history of mankind. Somebody's trying to build a new storyline of our creation and our existence, fulfilling some kind of prophecy about some antichrist being enslaving the world under globalism. Much of the leadership behind the initiative, for something called the Plan, has already taken public stand in favor of Maitreya the Christ. Maitreya. So I do have a book here or two. Said I would look at a few books in this video. So who is this Maitreya? I put a couple of markers in here. Thought I'd read just a little bit. Messages from Maitreya the Christ. And this is connected to Beware of the Rainbow by Constance Cumbey. Listen to what I'm about to say. Page 98. Message number 48. October 31, 1978. I am with you once more, my dear friends. It is part of my plan to reveal myself gradually, step by step, to make my presence known to the world. Well, that's interesting. This process is now well underway. When you see me, you will find a friend in need, a brother whose heart enfolds your own, a teacher who has traveled somewhat further along the journey of life, a guide into that blessed future which, my friends, will be yours. Along the journey of life, a guide into that blessed future which, my friends, will be yours. My methods, simple as they are proving effective. Remember, this is all about this propaganda we're seeing and reading and learning in schools. Children hear this stuff in cartoons. We see it in TV programmings, news in the newspapers, TV announcers, false flags, activities. My methods, simple as they are proving effective. Witness for yourself the changes occurring in the world. This book was published. 1980, Benjamin Creme. My entreaty is this. Make yourself responsible for the spreading of the news of my presence, and do for me a great work. When your brothers know that I am with you, they will gladly accept your news. Do this for me, my friends. Do this now. That's what it says here. Share with your brothers and sisters everywhere this message of hope, these tidings of joy, and prepare them too for my appearance. In this way can you serve your brothers beyond measure. I am taking you into a new country. Close your ranks around me and allow me to show you the glories that await you. The framework of this future time is now constructed. The blueprint of the future becomes clearer. Let me take you with me into that future and clothe radiant light that structure. My blessings go with you all. May the divine light and love and power of one, most holy God, be now manifest within your hearts and minds. May this manifestation lead you to see yourself as the divine and glorious beings that you are. Pause your computer and verify I read what I read. Well, what did you think of that? My phone rang. I had to go answer it. So I'll be making a video on this book, reading more from it, combining it probably with some other Benjamin Creme material. Some of these other books I'm going over. I've been reading this, the book of the Hopi Indians in Arizona by Frank Waters. I read this book in its entirety, so I know a few things and I've mentioned it, but I never made a video about it. And when I was reading it, I wasn't highlighting like I do now, so I know what to say and read when I'm making videos. So I'm having to read it again for the second time to try to find the material that supports some of the things I've been saying. In particular, that we are in the fourth human race mentioned in this book, also mentioned in the Theophilus Society material. And again, these are things I may not necessarily believe. I'm not trying to preach it as truth. I grew up as a Christian, and I believe without a doubt that Jesus was a person who was real and possessed by with the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to say, performed some miracles, died and rose from the dead as he said he would, and talked about by so many channelers and other people in other religions. So apparently Jesus, along with many other prophets, as Jesus said to the Jewish people, ye are the killers of your prophets. So there's been no lack of evidence throughout history, period, that there are beings, spiritual beings, or beings from someplace else who have been coming to this planet trying to teach people, and these have been the worshipped beings who became leaders of religions, like Muhammad of the Islamic people, Buddha, they're goddesses or gods of the Islamic religion, natives, Mayans, or the Peruvians, or American Indians, or the Hopis. So the shamans all over the world and the ancient people's traditions and stories need to be looked at closely and discussed and compared with all the other information. And ironically, like when I took a comparative religion course in community college by an Iranian teacher, the commandments for most religions are very similar. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, etc. Just interesting things to have a conversation about. Continuing on here, looking at some stuff. I had this book for quite a while, and I've been watching some of this lady's videos on YouTube. I encourage people to do it, please. We are under attack. They're dumping chemicals in our sky and using microwave HARP transmitters, Gwen towers, cell phone towers, satellite systems, radio station transmitters, even the electric grid with the smart meters. We are being invaded, and a system is being put in place to dominate our reality, and it's coming like a freight train. This is Elena Freeland. You can see her name on this book. And she does have a lot of videos where she's talking on talk shows, lectures, or whatever, and she's published other books. And she's working on some new books. So I need to read this book and make a short synopsis video. We are under attack. And I have been studying psychic research since I started this whole investigation that I came across by accident, wanting to get into alternate energies other than gas, oil, or nuclear power. I had worked in electronics at a major aerospace company for 10 years. I have an electronic technical degree. And when I was looking up some old books on famous scientists and famous intellectuals in history, because I don't trust the educational institutions today, I discovered a lot of these scientists and famous people were psychics. So I decided to find out a little bit more about that, and of course that led me into investigating witchcraft and the Kabbalah and mysticism and all these religions and beings, and even reading books like this, like everybody else did for a while, holistic healing, chakra systems, the Kundalini. So I'm leaving no rock unturned. Ancient mystery cults, the serpent seems to be everywhere. We're going to talk about these things and talk about these things, provided you want to know, and you don't have to just watch my videos. There's other people who make videos out there. And more books confronting the New Age. Douglas Groothuis. There's plenty of books out there. How to resist a growing religious movement. So somebody is trying to feed us a new storyline of creation and history. Somebody's trying to rewrite history. Here's a book. Amazing book I found. Nice thick book. Thousands and thousands of these societies' spiritual community guide. Wherever you move, I don't care if it's Venezuela, Mexico, Arizona, Massachusetts, India, France, Denmark. Got a nice little guide here. And you can find your organizations all over the world. Even have a guide like a phone book. Beware familiar spirits. We're going to be looking at these topics. An investigation into the occult and psychic phenomena. So what does that have to do with Benjamin Creme? I just read that from his other book I just showed you. This one is The Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom. So let me just read a tidbit from this. Just to show you some of the things, because sometimes when you're making videos like I'm doing, you know, you move forward, you move forward, you move forward, you move forward. And even I can get a little bit perplexed or confused and go, man, what am I talking about? This stuff is so bizarre. So what you do is you take a few steps backwards, which I have done, not making so many videos in the last week or two. And I just said, well, think about it for a Rick. Look at these other books. And I've been reading this one. Oh my, this will probably be the next book I make a video on or two. From the Ashes of Angels. The Forbidden Legacy of a Fallen Race, Andrew Collins. And it says in this book it's not for resale or to be shared. That's part of the agreement when you buy this book. And I've been reading it, and I'm telling you now, it needs to be shared. From the Ashes of Angels, the Forbidden Legacy of a Fallen Race. And I've been reading it. Oh my. So a little bit about the reappearance of the Christ, just to have this conversation about the New Age, New World Order. Who's behind it? What's the truth? I'm just reading some highlighted notes here. So it's just another, like I said, changing the topic and just reading the questions and answers here, whatever. And letting us talk about something, think about something, have a conversation. So anyways, they do this talking to this Maitreya guy or this person who wants to come save us. As I just read from his other book, Messages from Maitreya the Christ. You're not the reincarnation of John the Baptist by any chance. So who is this Maitreya? Who is this Benjamin Creme? Who are many of these people who are doing things in our world today? Who is Donald Trump? Who is Hillary Clinton? Who are the Bushes, George Bush Jr., Sr., and the other parts of the family? What do they all have to do with 911, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the New Age and the New World Order, globalism, and all this craziness in the news? So with this Benjamin Creme or Maitreya, you're not the reincarnation of John the Baptist by any chance. This was in 1977. So February 17th, 1977 was this interview. I am not the reincarnation of John the Baptist, he says. How do you know you are not? I know, believe me, John the Baptist is long since a master. and in fact is no longer on the earth. Where have you got your information from? A senior member of the hierarchy, one of that group who surround the Christ. Remember, Christ means anointed one. When I say Jesus of Nazarene. So when you're talking about a God, which God? When you're talking about Christ, which anointed being are you talking about? I know which one I'm talking about. But sometimes they use these words to trick people. They call it the Christ, but they don't say Jesus Christ. The technique that you just talked about, you're receiving the communication from the Christ, sounds very much like you have an electric antenna at the top of your head. And that tuning in at one level, you're communicating with your master. But higher up, you're tuning in with the Christ. Now, are you in perfect communication with your master all the time virtually? Remember, this is Maitreya, Benjamin Creme, and I just read some of what he just told us to prepare for him and do what he says. So they're asking this Benjamin Creme, Maitreya the Christ, are you in perfect communication with your master all the time virtually? Yes, all the time. He has trained me and prepared me in a certain way for this work, which entails a moment-to-moment contact with him. And over the past few years, this kind of communication from the Christ, preparatory to these public transmissions, of his messages. That would be the material in this book. These are messages to people who are now followers of this material. Do any of the members of the hierarchy or the masters ever speak to man through mediums in trance? So they're asking this Benjamin Creme, this person that's in communication with the masters, with the Christ, do any of the other members of the hierarchy or the masters ever speak to man, to us, through mediums in trance, psychics or channelers? So what is this Benjamin Creme going to say here? Very, very rarely. It is one of the ways with which they prefer not to work. There are a few cases, indeed, where they have done so. And I've been making videos on the channelers, many different books, starting even with the Book of Enoch, Series 143, Dead Sea Scrolls, Series 114. You can go watch my videos. These are all very important. Book on the Encyclopedia of the Occult, Series 115, Freemasonry and Satanism. Masonry 117, Jewish History Atlas 118, Phoenix Journals, channeled information from Hanton and other people 119, Major Trends and Mysticism 120, Messengers of Deception 121, channeled material, UFO alien material. The raw material, you can go look up the raw material on the internet and see all that channeled material by some being called Ra. That's Series 122, Praising the Marker, Lee Carroll channeling Cryon 123, Dialogues with the Other Beings, that's Jane Roberts channeling Seth, Esther Hicks channeling Abraham, Barbara Marciniak channeling the Palladian aliens, Edgar Casey accessing the Akashic records, some kind of hollow records in another dimension, with all of our past lives and solutions to problems of healing people. So my point is there's plenty of material, channelers and psychics out there But in this book, this Maitreya, this Benjamin Creme, he says that rarely do these beings on the other side communicate through other people, members of the hierarchy, to communicate to us, yet I have all these books and information. So who's telling the truth here? So she asks him here in this book, do other members speak to man through the mediums in trance? Very, very rarely, he says. It is one of the ways with which they prefer not to work. One of the most famous and wonderful is the use of a man called the Boy. Those who have read the book by Swami Omanda, The Boy and the Brothers, well know what I mean. So that's another channeled piece of material, channeler, psychic, whatever, being I need to look up. It's called The Boy, and the book is called Swami Omanda, SWAMI-OMANANDA, and the book is called The Boy and the Brothers. Well know what I mean. He was a slum child from the East End of London, a great initiate, in fact of the 4th degree, and in his incarnation before liberation. So I suppose we incarnate and incarnate and incarnate, because we are spiritual beings in these biological bodies, to have some kind of soul growth. And again, I'm not preaching this as gospel or truth. I'm sharing what I have learned, so that we may be liberated from these bodies, so they would have us believe. He suffered a great deal. He was an empty shell, simply a hollow personality, which was taken over by the masters. So apparently this boy from a slum, who was living in a terrible situation, became a shell of a boy, left his body, and some other entity took over his body to communicate to humanity. Apparently a famous person. I need to look it up. So I'm making a point here with this review before I republish a video I made 4 years ago, that not too much has changed in my research. So I'll read just a little more. I left off on this book where they were talking about Maitreya the Christ. All right, listen up. This is important. Then we'll play my video I made 4 years ago. Much of the leadership behind this initiative has already taken public stand in favor of Maitreya the Christ. They have made flat statements in writing that they plan to outlaw the present religious practices and symbols of the Orthodox Jews and Christians. And I'm going to add, obviously, they're destroying the Islamic people's religion. And according to Aleister Crowley, these beings, which seem to be a derivative of the pharaonic ancient Egyptian religion, which apparently was all over the world with the statues and monuments to serpents, they want to outlaw all these religions. And that's part of what this New Age and New World Order is all about. And regrettably, it's such a sinister thing they want to do, and religion they want to bring us, that the people who don't swear allegiance to these beings, or being, whatever it is, you call it Luciferic or Osiris, Isis, so many different names, Baal, Moloch, whoever, whatever they bring us, people who do not swear allegiance, the preferred method of execution will be by guillotines. And weirdly enough, if you go look it up on the internet, the U.S. government has purchased 30,000 guillotines. So I suspect all over the world, remember this is a new world order, globalization, that many other countries have purchased guillotines too. They are preparing for something, which is one of the reasons I do my research and share in my videos. It's becoming more and more obvious with the demonic symbolism everywhere we look. even on people's bodies with skulls and daggers and beings and phoenixes and pyramids and eyes. Like I said, it's not hard to find if you want to look this stuff up. They claim that master messiahs, remember they said Jesus was the Messiah, the messenger, the Son of God, come to teach we the people. What did Jesus teach predominantly? What was the commandment he added from God? Thou shalt love one another. Look it up. And what did they do to Jesus? Because he was preaching brotherly love. These people who want to dominate humans don't want to do brotherly love. So they crucified him in a very horrific way. They claim that master messiahs will appear to adherents of all the present major world religions to persuade them of the truths of the new world religion and its new revelation. So there are new revelations being published all the time, and people are buying this material. They're believing it. They're following the Pied Piper. They're being deceived, beguiled, mind controlled. In fact, the government's actually setting up a system to find out who's who, and all the people who don't swear allegiance to this new system will be executed, imprisoned, enslaved. Contrary to revelation is to be a key doctrine, continuity of revelation is to be a key doctrinal note of the New World religion. They have also stated that angels will appear with Maitreya at the time of his declaration, an attempted implementation of the New World religion. Christians should not be deceived should such an occurrence take place, for the Bible clearly warns us that Satan is able to appear as an angel of light and has the power to make his lesser agents and ministers appear likewise in the same light. So these beings can appear, and they can manifest or make themselves look human or like other beings. And a lot of people are reporting UFO sightings, abductions by gray aliens and reptilians and other beings. The movement has threatened violence and even extermination of Jews, Christians, Muslims, failing to cooperate with Maitreya in the New World religion. The threat is contained in several places in the Alice Bailey writings, reiterated by David Spangler writings, which state that those of us who refuse to accept this new Christ will be sent to another dimension other than the physical incarnation and out of the physical embodiment. And I noticed this kinds of material in the David Wilcock material, Corey Good material, and a lot of this other stuff about Antarctica and Stephen Greer, all these things about some kind of ascension or even splitting apart of the earth into two earths, with the people who go along with the New World Order going in one earth, and the rest of the people will be, when the earth divides, like you see movies where one human being would divide into two human beings. You had the bad Superman and the good Superman, etc. Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. And apparently the earth is supposed to do that, and the good people are going to go off on this planet, and all the people that are so-called bad into this New Age, New World Order, Luciferic, Satanic thing will go off this way, waving bye-bye to the good people. And I'm sure the good people will be looking back, feeling sorry for all those people who are going off into oblivion. I know, it all sounds crazy. But you can go buy these books and read these stories for yourself and come up with your own conclusions. The movement's theoreticians, including Spangler, also speak freely of the need to maintain Aryan purity, which was Hitler's justification for exterminating the Jews. So there you have it. I'm going to play my video I made 4 years ago next, and hopefully the whole thing makes sense. And I will proceed to make new videos on new books. and go back and look at the books I've already made videos on and make more videos, going at a pace I can handle because it is a lot of work. There is a donate button in the comment section. Contribute to help me be able to financially continue to do this. It does take up a lot of my time, which could be spent doing other things making money. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.
Rick Miracle video book review number 18. The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow. Letters on Freemasonry. World Revolution. The Plot Against Civilization. The Masonic lodges are in every city, every town. Are they nefarious? Are they up to no good? Are they causing all the destruction? Are they trying to take God out of the schools? See this video, see what I have to say. Thank you for watching my videos. Rick Miracle. Hello, Rick Miracle. Returning with book review number 18. And we shall start with a book I've been referencing on many of my videos. John Quincy Adams, Lessons on Freemasonry. Foreword by Tex Mars. And I encourage you to go on YouTube and put in Tex Mars, T-E-X-E-M-A-R-R-S, and he's an author. Tex Mars has done a lot of books, and this is a reprint of a classic, Letters on Freemasonry by John Quincy Adams, who was the 5th or 6th President of the United States. Anyways, let me read this because I believe the Freemasonry issue is very important. And as we know, my series is Masonry and Satanism. So let's just see what Tex Mars has to say in his foreword. And Tex Mars is an investigator, much more knowledgeable than I. And I'm doing my part to try to show people that I've read over 100 books, and I'd like to steer people in the direction to help them get the truth. Not believe me, but see what I've read and see what my opinion is, and see what your opinion is. The question of Freemasonry and the controversy over its character, whether the fraternity is good or evil, has long been a feature of American life. Since the earliest days of the American Republic, politicians, clergymen, and ordinary citizens alike have engaged in vigorous debate and investigation into the virtue, purposes, and meaning of the Masonic Lodge. For John Quincy Adams, writer, poet, faithful husband, patriot, former ambassador and secretary of state, and the 6th President of the United States, there was no question. The dispute was firmly settled in his mind. The teaching and practices of Freemasonry, Adams asserted, are detrimental, noxious, unfortunate. John Quincy Adams was persuaded that the lodges were a bane to society, evil and Luciferian. Get it? My series, Masonry and Satanism. So convinced was Adams of the devilish and negative effects of Freemasonry in the affairs of men that the former President of the United States helped to found the anti-Mason political party. In 1830, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives on the anti-Mason party ticket. So his father, as we know, was one of the founders of this country, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. And here he winds up being the 6th president and trying to fight against what he believes to be a Luciferian group of people, the Freemasonry associations. And from my investigation, and I hope my further unveilment of the books that I have read and the reviews, reading a page here and there, you will see this is true. In the TV programming, Hollywood, the New World Order, the Illuminati, the Zionists, the globalists, the banksters, the secret forming of the Federal Reserve in 1913. So that would have been 83 years after John Quincy Adams was fighting to disclose the truth about the Freemasonry Society. As I've said all along, there were filters. A lot of men were encouraged, and a lot of women, to join, and the people who could be bought, bribed, controlled, rose to the top of the milk, the cream to speak, except it was a cream of evil. He graduated from Harvard University in 1787, second in his class, distinguishing him with academic honors. John Quincy Adams was neither a social backslapper nor a smooth operator type of politician. He was known as quiet, sober, plain-spoken, and serious. He was dedicated to the improvement of his country, the USA. I added that one. Adams was strong in opinion, single-minded, determined, honest, and highly intelligent. Though he checked his temper, he did not hesitate to stand up for what he perceived as an injustice, unrighteousness, and wrongdoing. Adams never quit fighting for the abolition of slavery. In 1841, in the Amistad case, he argued successfully before the Supreme Court to win the freedom of black slaves who had engaged in a mutiny against oppressive white slave masters aboard the Spanish ship Armistead. Let me just tell you, this is another sidebar by me. If we allow this new order to come into play, to be a reality, we're all going to be enslaved if we're still alive. The authors of the complete book of the presidents note that John Quincy Adams was a devout Christian. They add, he attended church regularly and often worshiped twice on Sunday. All his life before retiring each night, he recited prayer. In the morning, he invariably read several chapters of the Bible before starting his day. Remember Edgar Casey, we reviewed his book. And he was 10 years old. I think he read the Bible 7 times. And then he read, what I've read is that he read the Bible every year thereafter, the whole Bible. And he was the one that did 17,000 readings. Many of them, people sent in their name and address and the nature of their illness. And he went into a trance and found the remedy, or to help them. And then later on, he went into the giving readings about people's past lives and other issues. So, people say there's no God. I keep coming back to this in my opinion. And we know the Luciferian, Illuminati, New World Order, globalist folks are in charge, and they've had control of television for 60 or 70 years. And the Hollywood people admit they go into trances and consult with psychics to get do their part, become possessed by demons to do their part. Go on YouTube. Marilyn Monroe, even Lady Gaga says, swear to Lucifer instead of saying, I swear to God. Anyway, sorry for the sidebars, but I'm trying to tie all this in that it is all connected. Adams occasionally wrote of his faith, testifying, I have at all times been a sincere believer in the existence of the supreme creator of the world and of the divine mission of a crucified Savior proclaiming, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Now remember, that's a giver is what the Ten Commandments is all about. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not bear false witness, etc. One God, and honor thy mother and father. The Ten Commandments, look them up. The opposite of the Ten Commandments is the Communist Manifesto. Thou shalt not own property. I'm ad-libbing this, I read it to you before. You will be a slave. You'll have no rights. You'll be microchipped. 666. Does anybody get it? There's a spiritual battle that is right now is a reality for us humans. And the world's going to go one or two ways. Tex Mars is writing this forward that I'm reading. It was, and I am convinced, his strong Christian faith and religious convictions, as well as his thirst for justice and his common sense, that ignited an intense desire in Adams not only to expose the falsehoods inherent in Freemasonry, but also his desire to discourage men of goodwill from joining and participating in what he clearly saw as an unethical, unscriptural, and an unholy secret society. Now remember, this Illuminati was a Masonic, the combination of all the lodges worldwide, was done in 1776 over there in Bavaria, Germany area, by Adam Wuchthoff, which made all the lodges into one unit, which became the name of the Illuminati, controlled from the top by the 13 bloodline families. If he needed any additional justification, it was the tragic murder of Captain William Morgan in the state of New York in the year 1826 that further heightened Adams' sense of urgency to warn of the dangers of the Masonic Lodge. Morgan, an ex-Mason, had revealed some of the secrets of the Masons, the oaths, the handshakes, the ritual trappings, etc. In retaliation, he was ritually murdered in particularly gruesome manner, and his lifeless, mutilated body abandoned in a lake. So maybe I should just make another sidebar here. Part of these initiation rituals, which I will show you or that I have read in books, involve a dagger being placed right to your chest, and that you swear to keep all the Masonic secrets secret, and defend and protect and keep your fellow Masons secret upon death, and a very described horrible death. So what I have learned from personal experience and from reading is that, and as we all know, George Bush and Kerry, Skull and Bones, Obama is a Mason. That's the filter how these people get into the system of control. So what I have learned is that the court systems, the government system, all these elites that are in this Masonic Luciferian system do not have the citizens of the USA and the world at heart. They're controlled, they're decadent, they're perverted. It's in the news all the time. I'm not making this up. Leaving your governor's mansion and going to South America, finding a beautiful wife, being in a limousine with prostitutes, another governor, congressmen, senators, airports, footsies, chasing pages, the sex scandals. Everybody knows that Kennedy had more women than the man on the moon, whatever. Ungodly, unholy. And now the whole world's seeing all this stuff on TV, 2.5 Men, Seinfeld with a different girl on every show, and all the other activities made to teach or show or program or mind control, whatever. The whole world to believe this is okay. The facts of the Morgan murder were subsequently covered up by lawful authorities. See, I told you. They take care of their own. Reputed themselves to be Masons. When evidence ensued that the Masonic Society had assisted the culprits responsible for Morgan's death to elude capture and escape punishment, the event caused a national scandal. This is in 1826. Especially those whose publishers and editors were not Masonic initiates and supporters. So newspapers who were controlled by people who were non-Masonic initiates, Masons themselves, or supporters, they published this information but you can be sure that the Henry Ford opposition, why he bought the Dearborn Independent in Michigan, to expose his truths later on, 50 years after this? The major elite Masonic-owned Illuminati corporate global newspapers wouldn't publish this material, the truths. Politicians were forced to take sides. Some went so far as to found an anti-Mason political party, to elect candidates to enact a legislation to overturn what many feared and suspected was the undue influence of the Lodge throughout the government and society. For reasons are many, my reasons are many, though they center mainly on my informed conviction in the Masonic Lodge as an unchristian, generally amoral, and decidedly unwholesome. What do a lot of people worry about today? Friday night, getting a bag of pot, getting some drugs, going out and party, Sunday football, crazy TV stuff that's just too bizarre to even talk about. Cartoon characters doing the most grotesque things. There seems to be an insanity taking over the minds of the people of the USA, and I suspect the world. Indeed, I view today's Freemasonry as a loathsome leftover of the old pagan religious and unfortunate reminder that a virulent form of occultism and Egyptianism lingers on within the boundaries of these United States. Following the Great U.S. Civil War in 1861 to 1865, a man named Albert Pike, I've mentioned him a few times, haven't I? He's the guy who wrote a letter to all of the Scottish Rite Masonic lodges and the ones he controlled, not to disclose to the Masons below to the grade of 30 degrees the true nature of the Illuminati or the Masonic plans for the New World Order. Microchipping people, enslaving people, creating a vast divide, a small group of people at the top, and everybody else at the bottom controlled. I suppose if you're not a lucky one, you'll wind up on a work farm. If you're lucky, you'll get that. Unlucky is worse. All right. Became Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Remember, this is text Mars forward. I'm not reading it all. I'm just reading a couple parts of it. And then I'll do a spat or two of the pieces of this book. And then that's all. I'm not trying to read a book to you. I'm trying to introduce you to a book. You can go on YouTube and see videos regarding these issues. You can go on used book sites for $2 or $3 and have this book delivered in the mail. I like to buy the antique versions of these books if I can find them, 100 years old. It just gives me more confidence in the believability of what I'm reading. I don't believe anything that's published these days. It's doctored with mind control information, false information dumped in your head. Pike overhauled and revised the lodge rituals, implementing a 33-degree system of initiation that is far more radically unchristian and pagan than was previously in place. All right, and I'm finishing up with this little section. I believe that, having done so, no true Christian, no earnest seeker of religious truth will continue in the Masonic Lodge. Surely a Christian can be a Mason, but if the truth of Christ lies within his heart, that man will not for long remain a Mason. Tex Mars, Austin, Texas. Tex Mars is an authority on secret societies. Go on his website, buy his videos, buy his books. You won't make a mistake of information. He was formerly on the faculty of the University of Texas at Austin, as well as 2 other institutions, and is a retired U.S. Air Force officer. There you have it. Man smarter than me tells you about John Quincy Adams' Letters of Freemasonry. I suppose I ought to get this over with and read it now. This is page 149. This was the form of admission to the Master Mason's degree at Rochester, when the chapter at Rochester decided that Morgan had incurred the penalties of his obligation and sent out their signs, tokens, and summonesses accordingly. These were the oaths which every Master Mason admitted at the lodge in Rochester had taken. All this he had most solemnly and sincerely promised and sworn with a full and hearty resolution to perform the same without any evasion, equivocation, or mental reservation. Under no less than penalty to have his body cut across, his bowels taken out, and burnt to ashes, and those ashes scattered to the four winds of heaven, to have his body dissected into 4 equal parts, and those parts hung on the cardinal points of the compass, there to hang and remain as a terror to all those who shall presume to violate the secret obligation of the Masons. Consider what I'm saying. You join the Masonic Lodge. You swear upon oath of that horrible punishment, that you will keep all the activities and information and stuff secret, and protect your fellow Mason from any kind of harm, and keep his secrets. So just think of the conspiratorial nature of this in business, in politics, in thievery, in murder, in the stock market. Whatever they do, you go up before a judge, whether you're the victim or an attorney, and you do the hand sign, whatever they do. You get recognized. You get off. And you take some poor fool like me. If I get in trouble with a ticket or anything that happens, I get in a lawsuit. I don't have the secret hand sign. And the other parties, the opposition attorney, even my attorney, and the judge, they're all Masons. Mentally, secretly, they're conspiring against me then. I'm not going to get a fair shake in the court system in the USA or the world under these people's rule and control. There's a lot to read here. I want to move on quickly to another book. But I just thought to let you know that I have read the book. See all my little tabs I put in there? I read this a couple years ago. And so a lot of times when I'm talking, I mention John Quincy Adams' lessons on Freemasonry. And if I do this when I'm writing on comments on press releases, and I tell people, they comment back and say, you need to be locked up. You need to go back on your medication. You're crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy because I read. I'm crazy because I learn things. That's what they say. That's how uninformed, how stupid the people out there right now, how dumbed down. It's an overwhelming problem any of us who want to wake up have to deal with. And if we don't deal with it, who's going to deal with it? Somebody else? No. All I know is I believe in the Creator, like this president did. And I believe he knows who is putting forth an effort to try to get rid of the Luciferian influence and control, and maybe the coming martial law and mayhem and death across this nation. I'm not going to be in fear. I know when I pass this life, I did as much as a man could do. I may not be the best speaker. I'm not seeking fame and fortune. I personally would just like to have my country back. All right, next book. Take a break. World Revolution. The Plot Against Civilization by Nesta Webster. So before I read this highlighted section, one page is all I do. You should get the gist of the book by that. So I thought I'd do a little Wikipedia biography on Nesta Webster. See, I do my homework. I investigate the investigators. And we all have something to do on this issue. I could pick one topic. But no, I believe the whole thing is all connected. Star Trek with Gene Roddenberry, where Gene Roddenberry says he goes into trances. They give him the storyline. So last night I went on the Hulu.com, the website that has all the TV programming for free, and I looked up the original Star Trek series, and I played the first episode of the first series, and oh my God, talk about biblical, satanic. Even the name of that particular episode, look it up. When you find out that Gene Roddenberry confessed that he went into trances and went into the occultic world for his storyline. Remember that little joke I told you that said, just because you can hear these creatures and see these entities, doesn't mean they're smart or benevolent. Alright, Nestor Webster. August 1876. Wow. So the United States and the Wusthof creating the Illuminati was 1776. So this is 100 years later that she shows up. And she lived until 1960. Was a controversial author who revived conspiracy theories about the Illuminati. How many times have I put comments on the press releases in the paper, on the internet? And people say they thought I was serious until I mentioned Illuminati. They were laughing at me, saying, there is no Illuminati. You're imagining it. Well, she argued that the secret society's members were occultists. Remember, I keep saying, Masonry and Satanism. Witchcraft is occultism. The new science today, you know what, they made the nuclear bomb and all kinds of other things. Now we have the nice iPads and cell phones and computers and wireless internet. But with all that technology, knowing what we know, how many people they murdered in the past with the old technology, with swords, lopping off arms, lopping off heads. What will they do with this new technology? Here's a thought, huh? She argued that the secret society's members were occultists, plotting communist world domination. Well, we all know that's called New World Order, don't we? It's banksters taking trillions of our money and paying off all these big banks too big to fail, companies too big to fail. General Motors bailed out and the manufacturing facilities moved to China. Look this stuff up, don't believe me. Then the CEO goes to China, so proud of his doings with our billions and trillions that we borrowed to bail out and pay for to move these facilities to China. And we owe back. They'll collapse the dollar and they'll try to take everybody's property as payment for that money. That'll be their ruse, the fraud, the deception. They just wanted an excuse to bring about the Platonic world order, where the elite, going back to Babylon, like they keep mentioning, the Egyptian period, where Moses freed the Hebrews. They want to put the Pharaoh back in charge. And he's a bigger, badder dude now. Remember the plagues that God brought about that when Moses was there? To make the Pharaoh release the Hebrews? Well, now that Pharaoh is in control of all the technologies of the world. Nuclear missiles, HARP systems, H-A-A-R-P, sky spraying. Rockefeller's control of the pharmaceuticals, the hospitals. She argued that the secret society's members were occultists plotting communism world domination, using the idea of a Jewish cabal. The Jewish cabal is the Zionist. Prime Minister Sharon of Israel said it in his court when they were arguing about continuing to take the Palestinians' land, kill the Palestinians, remove the Palestinians. enslaved the Palestinians. And the Congress said, the Jewish Congress, well, we can't just keep doing this. The American people, the American nation, well, they're watching. He said, don't worry about the USA. We control the USA. The Masons and the Jesuits as a smokescreen, and the Jewish cabal, the Zionists. The Jesuits. The Jesuits are the Vatican's assassins. The Vatican's a fairly big world-dominating group. I consider myself a Christian, but I don't think that the Vatican is behaving or acting as probably never has as a true Christian. It used it. It embraced it and forced it as a control mechanism over people. Consider this. Look at South America and North America. The millions and millions of people slaughtered, carrying the banner of the Catholic Church and the priest and the Jesuit assassins and the Zionist people and the Illuminati and the occultists. According to her, their international subversion included the French Revolution, the 1848 Revolution, and the First World War, and the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, where they killed 66 million people, according to that one paper that I did in one of my reviews, and admitted 20 million, at least in the Zionist newspaper over in Israel, and many of them by starvation. Once they took over the country, they just stopped shipping out food. It gets cold in Russia, and people died of starvation. Seems like they're planning that in the USA. And here I am, hollering, trying to show you these books that I've read, over 100. When you consider press releases and magazines and the more books. So 200 books if you take all that into context. 1,000 plus videos. 10 years almost since I started asking questions, and every time I read a book and I see the little tiny number under something where the author said, this is where I got the information. It's called a citation. Then I would get on a used book site on the internet, and I would order that book, and it would arrive, and it would give me some more unbelievable information, and it'd be a little citation where that author got it from, and I would order that book. And so on, and so on, and so on, for almost 10 years. What have you done? And I know a lot of you are smart and have done things, and have higher college degrees than me, and more family connections. But we have to do something. Hence me doing these videos. Alright, I'm going to read from page 21. It's called Illumination. So this Illuminati thing was named in 1776. It's thousands of books, documents. In the United States Library of Congress, these books are registered. The Illuminati is real. And it says they worship Lucifer. What part do people not get? Occultism in Hollywood. Hollywood is from the Hollywood tree, which is where they made magic wands and divining rods over in Europe for years. It's magic. And in the United States, I'm going to do some information on one of my reviews here. I'm an experienced diviner. I can hold the sticks or the rods and find water in the ground. I studied this stuff. When I read it in books, when I started trying to research the old scientists, so I could try to come up with some alternate energy solutions to oil and gas and nuclear power. And I'm reading these scientists that we all know in our history books, from Edison to Einstein to Newton to Michelangelo to Nikola Tesla, who many times when he was on speaking engagements would tell that he was seeing the images or the cultic voices and the dreams, and they were giving him his technical knowledge. And his masters, the people who paid him and controlled him, would try to hush him up and shut him up. Occultic, Satanism, Freemasonry, Masonry, Illuminati, Zionism, witchcraft, Hollywood, TV program, mind control. Your world has been taken over. Got it? So let me read this, so as not to say that Rick said that. Mr. Webster said that. It is the Jesuitry of Wichita, that causes all our divisions. It is the despotism that he exercised over men perhaps less rich than himself in imagination, in ruses, and in cunning. Everything's a ruse. Oklahoma City bombing was a false flag. It was a ruse. 9/11 was a false flag. It was a ruse. Boston bombing, I believe. Sandy Hook, I believe. And if you go on YouTube, whatever, and look at some videos, and people smarter than me who have spent more time on that will show you the evidence. You decide. The Batman movie shooting. The guy was on medication, seeing a psychiatrist. Involved in the father of this kid was in a court case, according to these videos and this information, in the banking scandals and issues. Makes one wonder, doesn't it? I declare that nothing can put me on the same footing with Spartacus as that on which I was at first. This is Wusthof speaking. As a matter of fact, Knight was in no way behind Wusthof in what he described as Jesuitry, the Jesuits. But revolted by the tyranny of his leader, he finally left the Illuminati in anger and disgust. I abhor treachery and profligacy. Some of these words I don't know, I apologize. Flagrancy. He wrote again to Cato, and I leave him to blow myself and his order into the air. This is the Illuminati. Public opinion has now, however, become thoroughly rused on the subject of the society, and the elector of Bavaria, informed of the danger to the state constituted by its adepts, who were said to have declared that the Illuminati must in time rule the world, published an edict forbidding all secret societies. So at that time, when there was a carrier who was carrying a manuscript, had an accident in Bavaria, and when the police arrived on the scene, they found in this manuscript describing the total protocols of the Illuminati, which, amazingly enough, was fairly identical, if not the same, as the protocols of Zion. So, in April the following year, 1785, 4 other Illuminati who, like Knight, had left the society, disgusted by the tyranny of Wusthof, were summoned before a court of inquiry to give an account of the doctrines and methods of the sect. The evidence of these men, Udi Schneider, Kosa, these guys are foreign names, so pardon my spelling. You can read it, page 21. Grunberger and Reiner, all professors of the Marian Academy, left no further room for doubt as to the diabolical nature of the Illuminati. All religion, they declared, all love of country, loyalty to sovereignty, were to be annihilated. A favorite maxim of the order being, moreover, every effort was to be made to create discord, not only between the princes and their subjects, but ministers and their secretaries, even between parents and children. Okay, I think you've got the gist of this book. And you got the gist of this book. Together. So I'll show you the cover of this book. The Rise to Financial Terrorism. The Rise. Greenspan, and I want you to look this up, don't believe me. Creative economic destruction. Write those words down. Creative economic destruction. Alan Greenspan, was before Congress at a hearing explaining to Congress what was going on with the economic situation in the United States of America. And Greenspan said, we are running a program of creative economic destruction. And one of the congressmen said, and I searched this on the internet, I found many sites, won't people suffer? Won't people be hurt by this? And Alan Greenspan said, yes, a few people will be hurt. Well, we know now many people will be hurt, losing their homes, losing their jobs, General Motors being financed out, the banks, moving all their manufacturing to China, financing all the wars, and then saying we owe the money. They created the situation intentionally. It is meant to bring the United States people to their knees, so that when the New World Order says we have a solution, the people will beg for it. It's the same thing in old Chicago, if you remember the old movies. The thugs would come through, the mafia would come through and smash your window or rough you up or smash your cash register and your merchandise. But all that would end if you paid for protection. So you paid for protection to the same people who were causing the destruction. And that's what the New World Order is going to be. The people who are causing all our pain and suffering and death and drones and financial collapse and borrowing all the money that none of us ever see. People are dying in our name. It's enough to make you cry. And then we owe the money. And they control us, and they said, okay, the United States will do this. And they're all Masonic Lodge people, Illuminati people, controlled elite people. It's not the citizens of the USA. Citizens of the USA, in my opinion, don't owe a dime of this. We don't want 800, 900 bases all over the world. We don't want to take... Most U.S. citizens are still God-fearing, good people, barring the ones that have been mind-controlled and are tattooed with demons from head to toe, and body piercings like the demons of India all over their body. Look that up. All right, I'm going to do a little bit more to finish this video. Thank you. All right, what is the symbol for the homosexual agenda, gay marriage, all that? It's the rainbow. Everybody should know that, right? So this book is called The Hidden Danger of the Rainbow. Like Constance Cumbey, C-U-M-B-E-Y. So when I read this book a long time ago, I wasn't putting tabs in books. I made notes. On the back covers to reference the things that I wanted to remember. So just looking at my notes, page 99, it says here, odd, both Hitler, Winston Churchill, Franklin, Delano Roosevelt were dabbing in the occult. Page 99. So I'll go to page 99, and I'll be brief about this. Just let you have some ideas what's in this book. Like I said, there's so much out there. The New Age movement, the Fourth Reich. One of the best kept secrets of the 20th century is the occultic roots and nature of the religious philosophy at the heart of the Third Reich. It is public knowledge that both Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt dabbled in the occult. Perhaps the same conspiring Luciferic spirit that induced Hitler to implement the darkest practices of occultism moved upon the Western powers to conceal the esoteric mysticism behind Nazism. What people don't know can hurt them. They need to know. While Hitler was in Vienna pursuing a career as an architect and artist, he spent his spare time in occult bookstores and libraries, acquainting himself with the mysteries of the metaphysical lore and gaining the acquaintance of adepts in both white and black magic. You know my theory. I'm saying that they have been using physics and quantum physics and things like the nuclear bomb and CERN and these accelerators and HARP systems and satellites in space and studying of mind control, abducting people, terrorizing them, programming them with programs to be assassins. What these people can do with the black magic, oh my God. Transcendent states of consciousness, see what I said? And mild expansion fascinated him, and he devoted every spare cent and minute to the pursuit of higher consciousness. This is the New Age movement. This is what everybody and their brother and sister is into. It's satanic. I mean, I can use it to find water. I've read books, and I will review some of them if you want. Where big oil companies bring in a diviner who holds the metal rods or the stick and smells some of the oil, rubs it on their hand, rubs it on the stick, and crisscrosses the field, and it starts dipping when they find the oil. It works. What can I say? Left side of your brain is your conscious brain. Your right side is your subconscious. If you learn how to use your higher consciousness, you can access things. And like Nikola Tesla, seeing beings and hearing voices, and they gave him all the technology. A lot of the scientists of the past, this was the common denominator, which I've said in my previous videos here, that they could do and they did do, and it was documented in their biographies. What, Reagan's wife was into this? The Illuminati, Satanism, Masonry, the secrets, the lore by people who thought there was something to get. Transcendent states of consciousness and mind expansion fascinated him, and he devoted every spare cent and minute to the pursuit of the higher consciousness. Yoga, astrology, Eastern and Western paths to this goal proved too slow for his ambitions, and like many impetuous New Agers of today, he decided to accelerate the process by supplementing meditation with drugs. Sorry about that. He was using meditation with drugs. I read this a couple years ago. Mescaline was used to transport him to the highest state of consciousness, where he could look into the New Ages and occultists of the Akashic Records. So here's Edgar Cayce looking at the Akashic Records, helping to cure people. And here's Hitler going there for a demonic version of historical and future events. Hitler's aim in taking this accelerated path was to gain a perspective for his future destiny. All that I've been telling you, combined, this ought to give you a picture that should horrify you. Successful in contacting the top, Lucifer himself maybe, Hitler rightly believed he had established communication with Lucifer. I didn't know that, I just read it. Can you read it? From whom he openly coveted possession. Oh my God. Should I keep going here? The hidden dangers of the rainbow? Now you know why the homosexual agenda is so important, and Obama and everybody else in the United Nations is forcing it onto the world. This kind of sexual activity is a satanic ritual ceremony. It allows for the demonic entity to enter the human being. Like Edgar Cayce, doing it for good, helping people get cured and finding information about people's past lives, etc., and the historic incarnations, if it's all true, of Jesus, and those things. Apparently these forces, and if you go on YouTube, you will see many of the current movie stars, like I already showed you, Madonna and all them, admitting what they're doing. The secret doctrine also glorifies the pre-flood world. That would be the Atlantean world. A world that, according to both the Bible and secret doctrine, was alive with demonic control and psycho-spiritual power, as it was in the days of Noah. Well, I probably have 20, 30 books on Atlantis, and I have read numerous of them. And in my opinion, like in South America, the pyramids, and Peru, in the high Andes for hundreds of miles, the tops of the Andes mountains were cut off. Fascinating story is you can walk on this highway cut across the top of the mountains. They lopped off the peaks and they made a highway, hundreds and hundreds of miles. But the fascinating part of the information is you can go to the left side or the right side of the mountain range and the debris is missing. The material that was cut off. Stuff they could do back then. Genesis chapter 6 records the fact that the sons of God, which some interpret as beings from the spirit world or demons, procreated with the daughters of men. And we all know they're with the UFO alien things right now. They are abducting people. And a lot of these abductees talk about being shown their alien children. And getting back to my Atlantis story, sometimes I miss a place in my brain here. That's why Atlantis, the continents, were destroyed, according to a recorded history in all these books, whereas they were into the same thing now. They were mixing with the higher order of demonic beings with humans and making outrageous creatures, which we all know in mythology. We've seen pictures, you know, half horse, half man. And apparently with the sinking of Atlantis, a lot of these people, according to the pyramids in South America and Africa and Egypt, the citizens of Atlantis fled to North America, South America. And this is according to the books. Fact, I don't know. The story's interesting because it matches today's story. So anyways, apparently in Egypt, the power structure there, the kings, the rulers, were horrified what the Atlanteans were bringing with them. They were using these technologies to make a slave type of a human being for sex and for work. And it horrified the Egyptians, and there was a battle and wars. And finally, they mutually agreed that the Atlanteans would stop this. But then, you know, we all know there came the Noah's flood, and they were wiped out because of this. And Atlantis sunk because of this. And where are we today? Will we be God erasing the chalkboard of the sky because of this? Will he have to start over yet again because of this? Hey, I just ask questions. I read books. You? Do you care? You know, eternity is a long time. And again, I'm not trying to be religious. But it seems to me, this type of involvement with mankind, if directly demonic, was undoubtedly a motivating force behind the other crimes of the violence which proliferated, moving God to give the world a final warning through Noah. I think I've read enough. I mean, this book is just packed full. I mean, if that doesn't motivate you to, what do I use, book site, online, get the book, read it, couple dollars. Then you will, when you see the next press release or commercial or legislation passed for homosexuality, and barring any kind of religion talking about Jesus or anything in schools, and then the TV shows with the decadent sex and the murder and the robbery and mayhem and insanity, you'll know there is an agenda. All right, that'll be enough for this moment. I'd like to show you something. I'm making a little box. Little tabs. This This one says Illuminati. Just a homemade little thing. And then I put these pictures that I've been getting lately. These are the stuff you see on TV now. The people doing the devil sign. George Bush, and we all know that these people intermarry. And the different people who are related. So it's the elite families that are ruling the world right now. There was a game that's being sold called the Illuminati. And prior to 9/11, it had these pictures in this game. It was planned. But part of that you don't get. Go online, don't believe me. There's some more of the cards in the game. Sandy Hook's there. This is the structure. Down in the bottom is us. This Asus pad I'm using for a camera. I really like it, but apparently the light sensor is being affected by my cards. So anyways, you can see the top, the royalty, the eye. The eye would be Lucifer. Then you have the churches, the Jesuits. Then you have the military and the tanks and the guns. And then you have the globalists with all the big companies. And then you have the people laying around dying. And then all the big companies in the world. If you look at their logos, you'll see the symbolism, which we're going to get into. The sun, the pyramids. So this is what it's all about. It's about the fat cats, banksters, and Illuminati leaders, and against the little people. The symbolism is plainly there. The skull, the eye, the devil there, the crown, the lion. I said, again, go online, put in Jesuit, put in images, you'll get the website. Put in Templars images, you'll get the website. Put in Illuminati images, you'll get the website. Satanism images, you'll get the website. Masonry images, Freemasonry images, you'll get the website. Devil, you'll get the website. Moloch, you'll get the website. Owl, you'll get the website. And you will see that all this stuff is connected. Queen at the top. And again, because of what we just discussed, it seems fair to say that these people at the top might be of modified DNA, you think? Part of the culture that was the sons of God infiltrated with the humans, and they have a higher psychic and spiritual and magic occultic powers and knowledge and communication with the satanic side, the demonic world. And an eye in the background, the planet Earth, the Marxists, the Russian Bolshevik Jewish people with the revolution killing. This is the Jewish Revolution, Marxists. See this star on his chest? The bones, the skulls of the people. 66 million. You think there'd be piles of skulls like that? Bush on the Wailing Wall. The leader of the Russian Revolution, is that Stalin? And then there's Hitler. The symbolism, look at it. It's like that one there, Stalin, looks like the symbol they use for the United Nations. That symbol on Hitler's arm is what the people into higher consciousness call the shakas. They turn and rotate. Little vortexes of energy through your body. And apparently through your root chakra, which is near your anal area of your body, that's where the energy comes up through. And apparently why in certain kinds of sex, it creates an opening of the chakras in the higher consciousness to the demonic world. if you want to know. I'm sure you didn't want to know. 666 Rothschilds. Which, interestingly enough, I thought about that with the KKK. Because I'm into the symbology and numerology. I'm a researcher. I research the researchers and I research the material. And it dawned on me. I said to myself, oh my God, if A is 6, and B is 12, and C is 18, you just continuously add 6. And I said to myself, well, what's K? Because I thought of the KKK. Just, it's how my mind works. I think of things. And I said, K must be. And I took a guess out of the air. You'd guess, but what is it, the 8th letter, 9th letter, 20th letter, 12th letter? Well, I thought to myself, KKK. It must be 11 to be 66. And so I did the math and we done. KKK is 666,666. Double sixes. It's just funny how this stuff works out. And then we know, like we said, the federal building has the all-seeing eye. When I was up there this summer, the demon god Moloch has the all-seeing eye on his chest. And the wings. There's a better picture of the eye. And a lot of your stars are doing this with their hands on TV. The rays of the sun and the eye from the sun god. You can become a symbologist and start catching this stuff. The triangle with the crown. The rainbow in the eye. Remember the book we just reviewed, The Hidden Dangers? Once you start investigating, it jumps out at you. Stuff we see on TV. The eye. I like to pay attention to the artwork around the eye. And on the very top of this, that little flower-looking thing, right there, that's called the fleur-de-lis. And everything from the demonic beings in India, pictures of Genghis Khan from Mongolia, and the occultic stuff in the Masonic lodges, it's a picture that you find on the Egyptian hieroglyphics. It's the fleur-de-lis. And it's also, they've made it into the symbol for the Boy Scouts. And you'll see it everywhere. It's these little things you pick up on. I'm not quite sure what this is, but if you look at American Idol, you'll see the big eye on American Idol. And NFL football, they keep flashing that big eye at you. Again, the rainbow. They lie, they deceive, they make these nice posters, friendship, love. But from our reading, we know that this Lucifer dude is anything but he is the deceiver. It's his job to say it's friendship and love. Again, I pay attention to the symbols and the columns. And if you look at the Egyptian pyramids and the facilities inside and the stuff, you'll see columns and the eyes. It goes way back into the ancient buildings. The occultic world sees everything. And the more they make the world decadent and all that, the rays of the sun god, the pyramid. Look at the eyes on the little strings there, flowers. The eye. And again, all-seeing eye images on the internet. People getting tattooed. Demonic possession, you think? T-shirts? You get some crazy people out there. What kind of drugs is this guy on? This is the purpose. Look at the sky spring that I keep talking about in the background. You think that's an accident? That's what they did this picture? What are they putting in that spray? Is it some kind of drug to subdue people? To make them dense? Lethargic? What happens when they start dumping in there the swine flu and Other crazy things. What? Well, you'll have a lot of skulls on the ground, won't you? Alright, well, I thought, how about one more little thing? I was using it as a marker. If you go to your downtown area, this was in Asheville, North Carolina, and you look at the old buildings, you will find all this stuff. It's fascinating. I have a whole collection. We'll go over that. This is one of the things that got me into symbology. I wanted to start to see what this stuff was. He's got the head of the one of the Egyptian gods, which have wings, and the body of a lion. That's how they did that. You know, the Sphinx and stuff. I think Hermes had the head like that. Look it up, the Egyptian gods. You'll see it. But more interesting and a little, challenge and investigation and fun is go to your downtown area and look at the old buildings. Your nearest old downtown, it's been around for 100 years or so. At least 1890, 1920s, 1905. And you'll see all the old buildings and you'll see this stuff. Photograph it and make a scrapbook. Start a little investigation on your own and it'll fascinate you. Because remember, we read there that with President Quincy Adams, that was what, 150 years ago, and Albert Pike, 1880, and all this stuff is real. Right in plain sight. Wake up. God bless, and thank you for watching my videos. I'm doing my little tiny bit. There's millions out there like me, I'm not alone, trying to tell the world there's something weird going on, and it's not an accident, and there's a bad day coming and a bad plan. Why do they put these things? Why those gargoyles in downtown Asheville up on the building, overlooking the people in the City Square, City Hall, courthouse? Gargoyles. Questions. We need answers. God bless. Thank you.